Welcome back to the Omni Wellness Studio Podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. We got another special episode in store for you today. Like always, if you like the content we're putting out and the message, leave us a review, subscribe, give us some love.
All right, welcome back to the Omni Wellness Podcast. I am so excited, but I'm also a little nervous. I didn't say that when you first walked in. Didn't think it would be great to be like, I'm the host and I'm a little nervous, but I'm a little nervous because this is Kat Brooks and I have known her for about forever.
It feels like forever.
Feels like forever. We go way, way, way back. We met in our CrossFit days.
Yep.
Then we ended up joining the same makeup company.
Yep.
We have traveled the country together, which is crazy. We have the same nutrition coach, and you have been coming into Spartan Smoothies along your wellness path and journey, and I have just seen you grow just as much as you've seen me grow. So it's so awesome to have you here. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing good. It's a day off from my 9-to-5 work, so that's always a little bit of
That's wonderful.
a nice little break, especially
Yes.
this time of year.
Are you nervous?
I am.
I am. So we're like both nervous.
Which is kind of crazy because like we chat probably about the same things we're about to chat about like all the time.
I know. We've seriously been in the car together 2 times, 3 times that I can think of. So one of the times we actually drove from our area, the Cartersville, Rydell, Rome area to Orlando. We did that one time for an event. We have traveled from the same area to North Carolina for another event.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've even shared hotel rooms together.
We have.
It's not like we don't know each other.
This is true.
We could have like hit record on any of those car rides and
Oh my gosh, we would have had gold.
I know we could have just played that. So we're here because Kat has had an incredible wellness journey. Okay. So we have seen her. A lot of people will say that I am disciplined and I am consistent, and you are right up there with
thank
me.
you.
I mean, to see what you've been able to do. And then we're going to talk about this. There was a point where there was just, you were so consistent. It's like all the habits were there.
I was the queen of maintenance.
Yes. The queen of maintenance. And it's like, what we're going to talk about what it was that clicked with you, that made something shift. I want to know what shifted, because I don't even know, I guess in the past year, would you say?
Yeah.
Past year, maybe, you've just made some major body composition changes, and it's been awesome to see. But first, let's go back a little bit and tell us just a little bit about Kat. What do you do? I know you've got lots of dogs in your fur family. Like there's just tell us a little bit about yourself.
We do. So, me and my husband, both grew up, on the west side of Atlanta out in Douglasville. We are high school sweethearts.
I don't think I knew that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We met when I think I was 15 and he was 16 when we first met. And his dad lived in Douglasville, so he was spending summers there. His mom was in California. And, so he was back and forth. My best friend went to his church. We met at a church softball game. I went to church with her one Wednesday night.
So altogether, total, how long would you say y'all have been together?
Like, gosh, I guess it's been like 40 years since we first met. Oh my gosh, that sounds crazy. We've been married 22. So.
There's no way you're that old. There's no way.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, we and as anything else, it's really cool that, because you're not the same person at 16 that you are, at 40 plus. So,
oh my gosh, you're not the same person at 20, whatever.
So we have, we still love each other. We still like each other, which is even more difficult, I think.
And you can see that, and you can tell that. Y'all have a thriving honey business.
Yeah. So it was like 13 years ago. We were in Marietta. So we grew up. Life happened. We ended up in Marietta. We were there for about 10 years, and there's a lot of people. And it was just like, okay, we want first, because we were living in Marietta, we had like 3/4 acre. We wanted to get some land, and 3 acres sounded like a lot of land.
Yeah.
So we started looking for a brick ranch on 3 acres. Fast forward a year and a half into our house search, and we ended up on 12 1/4 acres with a 2-story plantation. Oh, we wanted a basement. We didn't get a basement. We're on slab. But we got a barn. So
but you got a barn.
So
hey, you can't have it all.
That's right. So, so we love it. And now 12 acres feels very small, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, so we started out with some chickens. We had dogs, and we don't have any human kids. We just have the 4-legged furry ones. But yeah, we have our dogs. We started out with the chickens, and added, a garden, added a huge blueberry patch. And then, one day my husband was like, I think I want to get some bees. And I was like, okay. I was terrified of bees.
I was about to say, what's going through your mind when he's like, let's get some bees?
Just like, birds and bees and the farm, it seemed to all go together, and then, it started out, I was literally just the paparazzi. I was just there to take pictures. I didn't want anything to do with them, but they're fascinating. I could go on for hours. I will not.
Well, I have learned so much. And if you're not following their Instagram and Facebook page, go ahead and tell us what that is, because I've learned so much about bees and the honey making process and the other products that y'all are able to make.
So Dazzle Mountain Apiaries is our, which apiary is just a fancy word for bee farm. So that is our honey biz. And
how do y'all sell year round?
So we primarily sell at the Cartersville Farmers Market. Mm-hmm. And then we also, the past 2 years, Brandon has done the U Harley Farmers Market as well.
Oh, okay.
So we have those 2 farmers market, and that's our primary locations that you can find us. But we do sell from the farm year round, so our customers can reach out to us. We have a website, but you can see items available, but you can't check out on the website. We don't have all of that quite figured out, mainly because shipping
right.
is a whole thing. So we invite folks to just, check things out that way and reach out to us through Brandon's number is on the website. It's on the contact information for everything, and you can text him or call him, and just reach out to us and come by the farm, or, I'm bebopping here, there, and everywhere around town. So, I've been known to meet people in random parking lots, usually a gym parking lot. So. Yeah,
I've been there before. Oh my gosh, selling mascara to people. You know how that goes, meeting in gas station parking lots and giving people the goods.
That's right. Yeah. So
no, I've learned so much about Brandon just from, I think we traveled together as couples on the cruise. Back 3 years ago, I guess. And that was when, I really met him. I don't think I'd really met him. And then just getting to know y'all through your social media. And you are a wonderful paparazzo, by the way. And the information.
He is all operations. I'm just marketing and a little bit of product development.
Y'all made a great team.
We do. We make a good team.
So let's go back. So fitness related. I know we could talk about, you're right. We could talk about bees like all day long. Fitness related. So what was your life like growing up? So were you an athlete? Was it something that you just were always drawn to? Like, tell me a little bit about the fitness and the nutrition growing up.
Sure. It was a little bit of everything. I mean, we
especially living in the South.
Yeah. I think it is what it is. We just ate normal stuff, I mean, it wasn't like anything, super healthy or super unhealthy. It was just,
that's how I feel like I was growing up.
I think the only thing that, food wise that I hear some folks, about is the Clean Plate Club. I mean, there was very much like that was a cardinal sin in our house to waste food.
Ours too.
So,
yes.
And I know Brandon also, growing up was the same way. It was take all you want, but eat all you take. You don't waste food.
Right. I think we had that growing up, and then probably the most unhealthy, I would say, consistent food was sweet tea.
See, my mom is a native Atlantan, but I kid her that that's just a lie. And Grandma and Granddaddy found her on the street corner in New York City or something because
that was never her thing.
She does not like sweet tea. She's not particularly fond of grits, and she doesn't like peaches really. So I'm just like, are you sure you're from around here?
I feel like that I just have not known your mom at all. And here we go again. I actually have spent a weekend
at their home.
At their home. They hosted us, and they're like the best, like host ever.
They're the host with the most.
They are. They could have like their own little bed and breakfast and the food that they eat and stuff. So I feel like I kind of got a good beat on your mom. So that's a little shocking to me.
But yeah, we grew up on unsweet tea and water and diet soda. I mean, we didn't even really have like a pitcher of Kool-Aid in the house. Like we weren't having a lot of. I guess
you better clean that plate.
Good, but yeah, but if you're putting it on your plate, you better eat it.
Yeah. So it wasn't too bad, but it wasn't.
Yeah. And mom and dad were always active. Like, I remember dad played tennis. I mean, like they had a gym membership to a place that had like an indoor pool and had different things. And even as a kid, like me and my sister both, like we were involved in something. And that was also another way that you didn't waste money. You made that commitment. So I remember like we usually sort of flip-flopped between a sport and what I call it an art activity. So we would decide, we wanted to play soccer. So that was great. Somewhere in the middle of soccer season, I didn't really want to play soccer anymore, but it was like, no, you made the commitment, you signed up, we've paid the money, we bought the gear, like you're seeing the season through. You don't ever have to do it again, but you're seeing this season through. You'll see your commitment through. And so I think that was definitely an important thing that was instilled, that you're not even just about, the investment that you made in something, but you made a commitment that this is what you're going to do, particularly when it comes to a team.
Right.
They're counting on you. You have a position and you need to see that through. You can change your mind when that's over.
Right. But we were like that growing up.
So we did soccer, and then we did dance for a year or two, and then we did softball for a season or two. I took piano for a year or two. I don't know that I could play anything on the piano ever again. And then somewhere we ended up towards, high school by that point, and me and my sister both got into color guard. So that was kind of a mixture of the two. It was physically active while also kind of being artsy.
I love that.
So
I didn't know that about the color guard thing.
Yeah.
My sister did color guard.
Yeah.
So she played the flute, but as you know, in high school marching band, like flutes don't really have the spotlight. So a lot of the color guard would be flutes and clarinets and stuff like that. So that's how she ended up doing color guard.
My sister did the flag line. I did all the things, of course, because that's how I am. I do all the things. So I did we had a rifle line. So I was on the rifle line, and I was captain of the rifle line my senior year. And then we had a kick line style drill team. So kind of like a Rockette style drill team. So I was in that. And I was co-captain my senior year of the drill team. So, yeah.
So you have just been pretty active just all the way through.
So it was a lot, yeah. And then, went to UGA, go Dogs.
I knew you were going to fit that in somewhere.
You got to get that in somewhere. I think it's like ingrained in you somewhere in orientation.
I was about to say, I think when you go to the school, like you are totally like, throw it in wherever you need to. Because yes, I know that it's ingrained in you. Like I actually, you know this about Kara, and I thought that was so sweet of you to say yesterday about Kara. My daughter goes to Georgia Tech.
She does.
And you said that even though you were a Georgia fan, you are a Kara fan.
I am.
And that meant a lot to me. But their whole thing is Helava, I guess, which I'm still learning all of the things. And in one of her posts, like I've just never seen Kara talk like this before, but it was like maybe her first post that she made after us getting her moved in and all this kind of stuff. And she said, can't wait to be a hell of a good chemist. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it happens that fast.
Instantly.
The indoctrination.
Well, my dad is a diehard Florida Gators fan.
Oh, how'd that go?
Yeah, so I think I broke his heart a little bit.
Just
maybe.
a little. But he's a cat fan.
But he is. And I remember my mom telling the story that she came to Georgia orientation with me, and she tells me later that like Dad's only thing was like, she can go to Georgia, but just don't let her become a bulldog. And after coming home from orientation, my mom was like, I don't think that's possible. It doesn't work like that.
No, especially knowing you the way you are, you truly do immerse yourself in whatever it is that you're doing.
I do.
Like you are. You're going to be all in.
I'm in it to win it.
Yes. Yes.
I don't play if I can't win.
So you go through college. Did you stay active through your college life?
Yes and no. We obviously have, even the non-athletic people at Georgia have access to some great facilities there. I laughed. I don't know what the security stuff is there now, but before, like, you literally had like the little thumbprint that you had to use. You only needed an access card to get into the dorms, but to get into the food hall or to get into any athletic facility, you had to do a little thumb scan.
You had to.
Yes, I'm like, the food and the equipment is important.
We know what the priorities are.
That's right. So there's some great gyms there. So it was kind of, just off and on. And, I was in a sorority, and, we'd take our walks out. Millage Avenue is sort of sorority row. And so we'd, go on group jogs or trots or walks or whatever it was. We were up to those days down Millage and things. So,
which is just kind of a little precursor to what you ended up doing. Because
Yes.
when I met you, I mean, we talked before about CrossFit being when I met you, but I think what's at the true like gut of your fitness soul is running.
I really enjoy running, which is crazy because I never liked running. I was like kids that, when you used to, in middle school, and you had to run the laps, and you had to like collect the popsicle sticks for each.
Yes.
I mean, it was just like, oh.
Well, that is so surprising because of what running now means to you and what it's meant to you, all this time.
I think for me, it's the ease of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people say
it
running
doesn't cost. You just need a good pair of shoes.
Yeah, you need a good pair of shoes. I mean, people say running is free. It's not exactly free because you really do need some decent shoes or you're going to hurt yourself.
Yes.
But, and good running shoes aren't exactly cheap. But yeah, I mean, it's a small investment that you make, and I love being outside. Yeah. So it helps me get outside time, and now that we have a dog that we have a hound dog that definitely needs some outlet and behaves better when he gets an outlet. So it's great to be able to have my little running buddy, and we get up and get out. And but yeah, I really enjoy it. And
well, what got you into, like, when did you catch the bug?
So
this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it every day.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And so 2013, so literally 10 years ago was when I ran my first half marathon. My sister-in-law, her husband's in the Navy, and he was stationed in Jacksonville at the time. And so I went down. We were doing this 5K on the beach. It was an out and back. Literally, you just run 1.5 miles out and 1.5 miles back. They had a red carpet finish. They had somehow gotten a sponsorship with this local jewelry company, and there was this custom pendant that you got for running this 5K. It was called the Never Quit. I don't know if they still do it, but the Never Quit 5K. And she was like, "Yeah, you want to come down and run this 5K? We get this really cool necklace." And it was, I don't remember, it was like a nautilus shell or something. It was really pretty. So I'm like, yeah, I can be incentivized.
It was enough to say, I'll do this.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about race medals. I was just like, yeah, jewelry, nice. So we did that, and I didn't die. and
beach runs are not easy.
Yeah,
they seem like they would be until you get out there. And my thing with the beach is that there's always that slant.
It's off camber, and the breeze isn't coming in. It's kind of blowing you sideways. It's not the nice, gentle little breeze you're thinking it's going to be, and it's humid and it's warm and all the things.
I'd much rather run on the road, but that's just me.
Yeah, probably so.
I'll walk on the beach, I'll run on the street.
I'll take the beach over a treadmill. I can't do treadmill.
Yes, I agree.
But yes, we did that, and then my sister-in-law was just like, so, since that wasn't horrible, there's this thing called the Princess Run, which is not what it's called, but that's what we thought it was called. There's this thing called the Princess Run at Disney World, and it's a half marathon around the park. So, like, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah.
Now, were you a Disney enthusiast at this time?
I've always liked Disney, but I don't know that I was as down with the mouse as I am now. But I mean, I've always loved Disney.
Yeah.
It is magic.
Yes. So, I have not been in forever, probably since my senior year.
Well, and having grandparents that lived in Florida, they had the Florida thing. So, so we would go to Disney quite a bit. We almost always went to Epcot. But really, at that point in time, it was Magic Kingdom and Epcot. There wasn't, Disney World wasn't all the things.
That's how it was when
it is now.
We were growing up. And we grew up in Florida as well. And we would do gosh, I think it was around my birthday. So every year for my birthday, we would go to Disney World.
Yeah.
And like you said, there wasn't all the other things. And it wasn't until, I guess, way later that I discovered how involved Disney trips can be. And I was like, there's the whole like breakfast with the characters and, just all the things. And I was like, gosh, when we went, we literally just went for the day and came home. We got a souvenir and we were done.
Yeah. Cause it was like a 2.5, 3 hour drive from my grandparents' house in Jacksonville. So my poor dad was our chauffeur. We'd get up early. We'd drive to Disney. We'd do Disney. And then, my poor dad had to drive us all home while we slept.
He probably loved it.
At least he had some quiet time.
Knowing Jim, he probably loved it.
Probably so. But yeah, I mean, it was just a day trip, right?
Yeah.
And so we decide we're doing this princess run. And so we decide we're doing a half marathon. We literally went from 5K to let's go do a half marathon. And we, made some homemade tutus and got some little plastic Dollar Tree, little crowns. And, we just sort of picked a color was our theme. And I was a pink princess, and I think she was I don't even remember which color she was. We had like a blue and like a purple. We had another friend. So we were just this color.
Yeah.
And we get there and there are people in these elaborate, running costumes. I mean, they're not
quite involved.
They're geared for running, but I'm just like, whoa.
This is an event.
I remember thinking like, wow, that's a lot, but I don't think I'd ever be one of those people.
Never say never.
I became one of those people. So it really got me into running, and I did other races and other events and things, and eventually got up to doing full marathons. I was trying to think of that on the way here. I think I've done 6 full marathons now. I've done the Dopey, which is also at Disney, which is it's 4 days. You do the 5K, then the 10K, then the half marathon, then the full marathon. So they call it the Dopey Challenge because you got to be dopey.
Oh yeah, you would have to be.
So, but
there's a mutual friend of ours where I learned all of this stuff from because I had trained her out of my home a little bit, and as she's telling me about this Dopey, I'm like, who does this?
Who does this?
Who does
Why
this?
would you do that to yourself?
Even hearing you say it, I'm like, still, who does this? And I've got someone sitting right in front of me who's saying, I've done it.
And it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah, you would have to be dopey.
I have to say, it does also sort of instill the need to do more if your personality is bent that way, because then it's like, oh well, just a marathon feels like, oh well, it's just a marathon. It's not the Dopey. It's not all that craziness. So
it definitely gives you a hunger
just a marathon is fine.
for more.
Yeah.
And that probably instilled even more so. I mean, going back where you were talking about finishing your soccer seasons. And then I know how involved marching band is and all of the stuff that goes along with
all
that.
The things, yeah.
It just flows as far as developing that consistency and that discipline. All of these things, really do help shape who you become the older you get.
They do. I saw a quote floating around the gram yesterday that said something about if I got rid of all the mistakes I've made, I would erase who I am.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that too.
And I was like, oh, that really strikes, because it's your successes as well, but all the, life is always evolving and it's making you who you are.
Yeah.
So, learn from mistakes, but don't wish you didn't do them, because they brought you something.
Yeah,
even if
there's value in every failure and every mistake, no matter how painful it is to our
at the moment,
yes, to that ego.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and that's what I was saying yesterday about a mistake that I had made. I was like, in the grand scheme of things, it really isn't that big of a deal. It's just more of a hit to the ego. Yeah, is what it is. So, but everything's going to be okay. It's fine. It's fine.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got the running thing.
So we did the running, and when I decided to do a full marathon, I hired a running coach. So I have learned that along the way, that, and I wouldn't even say it's necessarily if you're serious about something. It's really if it's something that you want to really invest your time and your efforts into, whatever it is, consider professional help.
Yes. That took me a little longer to figure out, but Keith has used this analogy before, that if you want to go from here to San Francisco, you really don't need a map. I mean, you can go in the general direction.
Stumble that way. Yeah.
You can stop and ask for directions and figure it out, but you will probably get there a lot more efficiently if you would just get a map.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's like when you get a coach.
It is.
Because I was just shooting in the dark for a long time when it came to my own nutrition and, I can just train myself. But once you invest in and you find a coach, because there's so many out there too.
Sure.
Once you find one that aligns with your values and you feel like you click with, then just trust the process and just let them guide the way.
Absolutely. And that's key. And that was a hard thing for me too, because to learn that you do need to vet your coach, and it's okay if you have someone that you just don't click with.
Yeah.
It's, there's others out there that maybe you will. But, I think about just, I've done kettlebell classes. I've done just, taking aerobics classes. I've done kickboxing classes and programs and things and CrossFit. You have various coaches. It's usually not the exact same coach that's showing up every single day that you're there. And there's some that you just click with better than others. And so particularly when you're looking to go hire someone to be your coach, to be that voice that you're listening to, it is important to have some discussions with them to make sure that it's someone that's going to click. And if it's not clicking, then that's okay. Then it's time to say, okay, great. This was good. I got the value out of it that I needed, and, and move on to find another person
that's right.
that can assist you.
Because the way I see it is that you're growing, and sometimes the coach is growing with you and sometimes they're not. So for me, I can just get a feel for if I've outgrown that particular coach or not. And then is the hardest decision to say, okay, I'm going to move on. But I also have shifted my perspective a little bit in that there's someone else coming along that's ready for them. So I'm creating some space for that person. So anything, it just ebbs and flows is what it does. Yeah. So if I hang on because I'm just afraid of hurting someone's feelings, I'm actually taking up space for someone else that's ready for that particular coach. Because I was that person at that time. Like I would not have been ready for this particular coach back before I got with them.
Oh, for
but
sure.
then when I got with them, it was like they just took me to levels I didn't know were even possible. But then there comes a time where they need to move on.
Sure.
Just like I'm not the coach for everyone. Like if someone came to me and wanted to do general lifestyle, I can help you all day long. But the second that you tell me, okay, I want to prep for a show, I'm like, okay, I can recommend you to someone else. I'm not going to be your girl. Yeah. And most coaches know what their limits are. And you just watch how they work, and you watch how they interact with other people. And that to me is how you can tell, if they're going to align with your particular values or not.
Yeah. And it's important to understand what it is you're looking for, because, it may be a nutrition coach, or you think it may be a nutrition coach, but as you work with them, you may find that what you really need is a mindset coach, or what you really need is a personal trainer. You need, one-on-one, personal interaction with someone. So, and it is, I'm speaking to myself sometimes, and it's just like, sometimes you need to just stop and take an inventory of, I know you thought that's what you wanted, but maybe that's not what you need.
Right.
Because where are you today, and what is it that's going to really be helpful to you?
Yeah. That self-awareness is, that's one of the best things about getting older though, is that the self-awareness just becomes a little clearer than what it did before. Yeah. Where you think that you know what you want, but you really do figure out quick what it is that you might need.
That you might need.
Yeah.
So and you might not like it.
So along the way, if you can take us back. So when you're running and, how are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling about your body? When you see yourself in the mirror, are you liking what you're seeing? Are you still striving for something else? Like what's going on at that time?
So when I was really sort of at the height of my running and doing, the marathons, I was still doing my CrossFit, and I was pretty much running 3 days a week, CrossFitting 3 days a week, and then having like a day off. And I remember having, discussions with myself. You have a lot of time with yourself when you're training for marathons.
Not that I would know, but I have trained for a half marathon, and I'm just going to take the time that I know I had and double it.
You're just out there in the middle of nowhere with your thoughts. And, it's those things that, would, especially when I did not RX a lot. I modded a lot in CrossFit.
Yeah. And for those that don't know the CrossFit terms, RX
yes, thank you.
is as prescribed, where they write what the workout is, because you walk in and there's a workout
set
on
weights.
Yes.
And, this is what you're doing.
You're going to deadlift this particular weight, and there's 2 different ones for men and for women. And the RX weight could be, you're going to lift 185 pounds. You're going to deadlift that 20 times. I'm thinking a lumberjack 20.
Yeah.
And that would be for the women's weight. Yeah. Well, if that's not a weight that you can safely do and comfortably do, then you can modify the weight, and there would be usually a scaled weight.
There was, yes.
Yeah, because they want to make sure you're lifting heavy enough, but not the big weight.
And the CrossFit gym that we were both at, I think, was very good in the fact that they had good coaches that were concerned with you doing proper form. They did not want you
absolutely
lifting too heavy. If you could do the RX, great. If you need to do the scaled, great. If you needed to modify to yourself, to your own needs, great.
Yeah.
Just, do what you could to challenge yourself, but still make sure you're not injuring yourself. And so I know CrossFit can get a bad rap.
I know, but
injured.
I will still defend it. I will defend it all day long. I still see where some people make these little comments about CrossFit, and I'm like, you don't even know. You don't even know.
And I said the same thing with finding a coach. I'm sure there are bad apples out there, but there's lots of CrossFit gyms. There's lots of CrossFit style gyms. Find one that supports you.
Yeah.
Find
it's
one
just
that,
like anything, any other community. The program itself is not bad. It's usually the people that screw it up.
It's just it.
So just do your shopping if that's something that you feel like that you want to do.
Yeah.
And like you said, same thing with, any nutrition coach or mindset coach or anyone like that. Just find one that you feel like you click with, and you'll know it.
Yeah, for sure. But I remember thinking like, well, I'd be a better CrossFitter if I wasn't a runner, and I'd be a better runner if I wasn't a CrossFitter. Essentially,
it's very taxing.
If I could, focus all my energies on one thing instead of all the things, then I could be better at. But
what's the saying about chasing 2 rabbits?
But I decided, what, I didn't care. This is what I wanted, and I was good enough at both to do both happily.
Yeah.
Because it was that point of like, well, do you really care if you ever just really can just nail double unders? Do you, is a muscle up really something that's gonna be it for you?
Yeah.
No. And on the same time, like, yes, obviously I had some time goals for my running, but like, if you run this, sub 2 half marathon, is that really it? No, I didn't care. So, most of my timing goals came down, and why I actually hired the running coach was so I could get a sub 2:30, a sub 2.5 hour half marathon, so that I could qualify into certain timing corrals at Disney.
Oh,
because, and if you even remotely are entertained by Disney or like Disney at all, I highly recommend people doing a Disney run as their first, whether it be a 10K or a half marathon or certainly a marathon, because they entertain you like no one else. The rock and roll series is a close second. So if you're not a Disney person, maybe the rock and roll series is for you. But they have lots of aid stations, and they have lots of things aside from the parts where you're actually in Disney World. They put up full-scale backdrops along the roadside.
Oh, wow.
They have marching bands. They have a gospel choir at mile marker 13. Oh. You're only 0.1 miles away from the finish line. I mean, they truly entertain you. And I say, if as long as you like Disney, if you can't have fun running at Disney, you're not going to have fun running.
So that would be this
is not for you.
Good place to start. Yeah.
But they do have minimum, running requirements, pace requirements, like all races do, because they have to open those roads up eventually.
Right.
So you have timing corrals, and there's lots of things to stop and get your picture made with at Disney. So that was always our goal, was to run qualifying races that would get us into a corral that started early, so that we banked time to stop for things.
Gotcha.
Like doing the marathon. where the course has since changed, but when I did the marathon at Disney World, the course you hit Animal Kingdom while it opened. So the gates were open, but you were far enough into the park that you were near. And now I'm going to get in trouble with my Disney friends. The Everest ride. I'm like, what's the ride with the snow, abominable snowman? So you would hit Everest in time to ride that roller coaster.
Oh, okay.
So there's like race pictures where the entire car, the little pictures they take while you're on the rides at Disney, and the whole cars, everyone's got a race bib on, because literally we just all piled on to the roller coaster. It made a really interesting thing on your Garmin map too, where you were going. I bet. But yeah, so that was our goal, was to run this fast half marathon so that we could qualify for a good corral, so that we had time to ride a roller coaster in the middle of a marathon.
Oh, well. Yeah, I would say that would be a good first experience if you were ever going to do it. Just go to Disney.
We got me and my friend that was with me, we rode the roller coaster. We ate a Disney shaped, pretzel through Hollywood Studios. We stopped to have a little walk break and shared that with those among us, had some mustard and some cheese cups to dip in, I mean, it was like, if we're going to do this, then we're doing it here. We're having fun. Yeah. So, but yeah, so, I mean, I think it is important to have goals, but also important to have, realistic goals for me, and something that is not just achievable, but that you really want to achieve, that you're going to put the effort and, again, the commitment in to achieving. Like for me, the muscle up was just not it. I really didn't care. Well,
I can tell you that, I worked for, I think, 5 years to get the muscle up. Mm-hmm. And I got the muscle up, and that really was about it. I never could string them together. That's a whole other thing.
A whole different thing. Yeah.
And by the time I got the muscle ups, the ring muscle up, they started putting bar muscle ups in the open. Yeah. And it was just one of those things where I just felt so defeated because I never could get the hang of the bar muscle up. Mm-hmm. And I would tweak my shoulder, and it was just not worth it. Sort of the same thing. Yeah. And then for me too, it was the walking on my hands. Like, I was getting close to 40. And I was like, do I really want to walk on my hands? Good idea. Like, do I really want to do that? Yeah. And just all of that together, I was like, and I fought it too. Because, I was there for over 8 years. Yeah. And that was like family. Those are people that saw me, through, the hardest stages of my life. Some of them. I ended up having some harder stages later after that, but there were some really, really difficult stages of my life. So it's like, you do kind of, for me at least, I just hung on. I hung on for too long.
We could hang on to the people, which I'm, fortunate with the farmer's market. I get to see a lot of those people coming through the farmer's market. Yeah. And, so it's funny because Brandon, we call him Farmer B, as people come up and he's like, now, is that a CrossFit person or is that a running person? Like, how do you know them? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. And now, of course, he's, because of the farmer's market, and then he's very involved in the community. He goes to different schools and does talks on bees and things. And actually, if you want to hear about bees, he's been on the Only in Cartersville podcast, the farmer's market edition, where he does talk about bees. And so,
well, he has just grown and flourished himself, hasn't he?
So he's his own little local celebrity. So it's funny because
awesome.
Folks will come up and it's just like,
does he have kids coming up to him?
Oh, yes. Every time. It reminds me, having a mom who was a teacher growing up, you couldn't go to the grocery store without mom getting, hugged and accosted by all the children that she's taught, right? So it's the same way now with Farmer B. Like, we go to the grocery store and you'll see little kids looking around the corner or peeping, and they're like, yeah, that's Farmer B, or that's the honey man. That's where we get our honey from. And they'll come over and want to give them a hug. And, so it's so sweet.
That is so cute. That is so cute. So when did we start seeing you at Spartan Smoothies? Like, we started doing the challenges.
Yeah, you started doing the challenges, and I enjoyed that. So I had my running coach, and my running coach warned me that and you should listen to your coaches. That's one thing I've learned. I still don't always. I'm still learning this, but they know what they're talking about. You're paying them for a reason.
And they do have a bird's eye view.
They do.
That's one of the things I tell my daughter when she just thinks that I don't understand things. I'm like, Kara, when you've worked with, especially in what we did with what we still do too with our makeup business, but just not to the extent that we used to do it. you do see a bird's eye view when you work with that many women and you're working not just with women, but women's emotions.
Sure.
And you see a lot. I just have to tell her, I'm like, I know it sounds like that I don't know what you're talking about and that I don't understand. I'm like, but you just have to take my word for it that I've seen a lot more than you think I've seen.
You think I've seen, yeah. So my running coach warned me that I was heading for burnout. But what does she know?
You feel fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine. I'm doing all the races. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all the dopies.
Still having fun.
Yeah, I'm still having fun.
Still riding roller coasters.
And she's just like, okay, just be aware, And I'm just like, oh yeah. And for my 40th birthday, I somehow ended up deciding to qualify to be a marathon maniac, which is to run there's various ways, but one of the ways you can qualify is to run 3 full marathons in 3 months. So
if y'all can't see my face right now, it's actually quite perplexed.
So I started that with the Dopey in January and then did the Mercedes in Birmingham, Alabama in February on Valentine's Day, and then did which was cold that day also. And, if you're thinking about doing it, just know that race has some of the things that I dislike most about some race courses, or at least it did at that course at that time. This was, 7 years ago, so maybe they've changed it. And that the full marathon is basically a double loop of the half marathon.
Loops are the...
So you're with this big group, and then half of them are peeling off towards a finish line that you can see, but you're not one of them because you're going around again. Because you
sounds
signed up
just
for the
about
full.
as bad as an out and back. Like one loop is, I would think, ideal, but to know that you've got to do it again.
And for me, it was the worst because for me during a marathon, the 14-mile mark to the 20-mile mark is my dead zone. It is the depressive zone. There's nothing to look forward to. Once you've hit 14 miles, you're halfway done, but you still have halfway to go. Everything is just another mile. Yeah. When I get to the 20-mile mark, and again, this will sound crazy to some, but any runners out there will get what I'm saying. When you get to 20 miles, I only have a 10K left. And there's hope in that.
Yes.
There's hope in it's just a 10K. We can just do a 10K. We're good, So, but that little zone there, those 6 miles are just sad. So you're hitting this double loop at for me at my lowest point. The runner's high is gone. And thankfully on that run, they're just, people come when you need them. And there was this local who was also part of a running crew that had a bunch of supporters on the sidelines, and she took up with me, and and she just helped me along.
Thank you.
And we'd run into her friends cheering her on, and they were cheering me on all of a sudden, and it brought new life to me, and I didn't hate my life choices at that moment.
In that moment.
So, and it also had an uphill finish, which is also horrible.
I was thinking that one of the things you were going to say would be a hill.
Yeah. If you have to pass the finish line, really in any way, shape, or form, and then come back to it, it's just mentally, it's just defeating.
Yeah.
And then, and then anything uphill is just hard.
And then you did a third marathon?
And then I did the third marathon because they found out. I swore I was never going to do the Georgia Marathon again, which is in Atlanta, which you start in Atlanta at Centennial Park. Again, at least the course at this point in time. You started at Centennial Park in Atlanta, and you basically ran to Decatur and then ran back. It was not a loop, but you took a different way home than you got to Decatur, but you ran to Decatur and back.
Yeah.
And Atlanta has a lot of hills.
Yeah.
And even in March, that one was in March, it still can be warm and humid. And
you never know what you're going to get in March.
It is a hard one. And I've run the half marathon course on that one a few times. I've run the full marathon, I think that was my third time. And that was the crew came. We had a health fair at my office building, and they were there, and somehow it came up that the race was going to fall on my 40th birthday. And so they gave me a free registration.
Oh, you can't turn that down.
That's right. And I couldn't waste it on the half marathon that was much cheaper than the full marathon. So
that was a no-brainer.
So why not? Even though I swore I was never going to do that course ever again because I hated it so much. But it was free and it was my 40th birthday and I was like, why not? So I had 2 other running friends that graciously agreed to do it with me that also had sort of sworn off full marathons, much less that marathon. And so one of them who also helped me with a lot of my Disney race costumes, she makes costumes and she makes running gear cute and makes it, but you comfortably look like, Cinderella, whoever you need to look like. And so she made us all these little headbands because, one of them had turned 40 like the month before. One was turning 40 the month after. So, of course, I had mine that had, it's my 40th birthday. And I think hers said something about like, I can't thank the 2 of you enough for turning 40 before me. And and the other one was like, 40, been there, done that.
Yeah.
So
it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it did make it a lot nicer to do. But yeah, that was like, in training, all the training for that, the training for a full marathon is really one of the reasons why it's really not on my, I wouldn't say, I never say never, but that I would never do a full marathon again, but it's definitely not on the to-do list anytime soon because of the training. You're just running all the time. And especially with having them that many back to back, it was just when I was done, that was it. I was right where my coach warned me I was heading towards, and I was burnt crispy. I didn't even want to run 1 mile, much less even sign up for a 5K or something. It just was not fun. It just wasn't fun.
What year is this?
That is 2015. So 8 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, but one nice thing about when you're running that much is I didn't really care about what I ate. I ate what I thought mindfully. I think I ate generally nutritious things, but I was running so much, I was burning off so many calories that I could definitely have major cheat meals, and it wasn't making anything move anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, if you stop running that much, you probably need to stop eating the Snickers bars.
Y'all make a note of that.
That's right.
This is your take-home points from the entire podcast.
That's right.
If you're not going to be as active, then stop eating the Snicker bars.
If your calories out greatly diminishes your calories in, it needs to be significantly reduced. But I didn't really do that.
Hey, we like to learn.
That's right.
Through experience.
That's right. So it was just like, oh, darn, wow, that scale, that escalated quickly. So try to get, back into CrossFit more, eased my way back into a few races here and there. Went back and started doing a kickboxing class.
I remember when you did that. Yeah.
Yes, which is a lot of fun. Smacking the heck out of something is a lot of fun.
You really have done just about everything.
So it was good. But again, it was just kind of, it didn't, and I enjoyed doing a class or two, but just having it just as my primary thing just really wasn't it. And then, work life, picked up speed, and it was just more and more difficult to get to CrossFit on time. And I do not like being late to class. I don't like being that person.
You were commuting as well, right? So you commuted to Atlanta.
Yes, I work in Atlanta. My office is in Atlanta. And so, trying to get to class on time was hard. And
it's just more stressful, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. And I don't like being that person who's late to class. I don't like coming in late in the middle of the warm up. Like, I just don't want to be that person. So
no, because when you are, you can just about guarantee hearing
something from someone.
Just show up anytime. It's like, I'm sorry.
Get here when you want to, Kat.
Get here when you want to. I'm sorry.
We're all just here for you.
I heard that a time or two myself as I'm trying to get my kids to school and driving across town, and we lived out of district, so I'm trying to drive to the high school and then drive to the middle school, and then I'm trying to make it to the CrossFit class that, they moved up 15 minutes, and I would walk in and I'm already stressed, and then you hear that and it's just like, it got to a point to where it was just like, this is
just not it.
No, we got to move on.
So did some things, and then worked out with a personal trainer that I still see usually once a week, most of the time once a week, sometimes schedules again.
Now we can plug her because she was my trainer too.
Yes, Jennifer Plummer at Fitness First. She is fantastic.
She is.
And I love, having her to be able to just, help me dial things in, because our coach, who is Heavy D Training, Coach D.
Yep.
Doug is virtual for me, so everything is coming across being sent.
So it's nothing in person. So it's not like Doug's right there with you.
So and sometimes I'm not always the best at challenging myself, weight wise.
Yeah.
I am. How old am I? Am I 47? Yeah. Like 47, I'm 48.
You sound like me. I'm like,
48.
how old am I? I was like, I'm going to be 45 next month. I was like, well, that happened fast.
47, almost 48. And so, the idea of injuring myself is something I would like to avoid. Yeah. So, so it's nice to be able to,
longevity is definitely a word that you start hearing in your mid 40s.
So my strength training programs are 4 weeks at a time. And so I like I try to alternate, which day is hitting on the day with her. So we can kind of try to dial in, where should I be? Where should that be? So I can really feel like I'm hitting something good, that's challenging, but also safe to do, with or without a spotter. If I, so far no one has rushed to my side at the gym. So assuming I look okay.
Yes.
No one feels they have to save me.
Sometimes I don't need someone, like I'll know if I need someone right on top of me. But there's other times where I'm like, it might be a good idea just to let someone know what's going on. And I'll just be like, if I hold this on my chest for just a little too long, feel free to come and help me. Right. But you don't need to be right there.
Just be on the lookout.
And sometimes just knowing that someone's watching and someone can come, I can usually do just fine. But helpful. I know if someone needs to be right there, like with their hands on that bar.
Yeah, which is usually my days with Jennifer.
She's great. She's great. She's in Cartersville, and she's the one that helped me go from CrossFit just to bridge that, because I, again, thought I could do it on my own. And I'm the type of person where I'll either do too much or I'll do too little. And I don't know that in between. So with her, we weren't sure if we were going to go in the actual like stage competition direction, or if we were going to go in the powerlifting direction. Gotcha. And with where my mindset was at the time, and she helped me figure this out. With her, part of the reason that I went to her too was because I knew that she had done the powerlifting competition and she had done actual bodybuilding competition. So I was like, well, she may be a good person just to help me sift through some of this stuff. Sure. And she knew where my mindset was probably before I did. Again, the benefits of having a good coach. Yeah. She knew that I was not in a place mentally to be able to get up on stage and be judged on my appearance. Yeah. So looking back, I'm so glad, because I was still in that, what my body can do trumps what my body looks like. Yeah. And I'm so appreciative of her for that and helping guide me in that direction. The only reason I never stepped foot on a powerlifting platform to actually compete was because 2020 happened. Yeah. And that whole year, that was the year that we were going to compete. I was going to compete, and it just...
And then everything went sideways that year.
Yeah. But I'm so grateful to her, because I was able to learn that, a strong back is what gives you a strong squat, bench, and deadlift. I never would have connected the dots if it wasn't for her, because I'll be like, why are we doing this back stuff? Why are we doing back? Like, I don't understand. And she's like, just trust me. And now that I'm on stage doing bodybuilding competitions, my back is my, it's my best side. Yeah, and I never would have experienced that, and I never would have seen that coming.
And she's another one I give credit for really making sure that form is, is heightened, is something.
And does she not have the best laugh?
And she does. And also that she's also very big on making sure you're stretching and working your mobility, and and all of that is just important, and things that you, like you said, you just wouldn't think are as important as they are. Yeah. If there wasn't someone making you do them, and you're like, oh, that does feel better. Yeah.
She's just like,
once again, I pay you, and you know what you're talking about. Yes. It's amazing how works.
How it works. Connecting all the dots.
That's right. You are a professional. Yeah. So I was working out with her, and then, pandemic hit, life went topsy-turvy, times of having to be here or there, and just being able to make those times work didn't always work. And you were, I knew you had a coach, and we're doing great. And I think I remember asking you if he trained normal people.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. They're like, does he just train like normal lifestyle people? I'm like, yes, he absolutely does.
Yes, he does. So,
But even with normal lifestyle people, though, his programs are pretty strict, and
they're very detailed.
Because that's what I started out as, and I remember being like, okay, he knows I'm not going to compete, right? Like, why are we doing all this?
Well, and it's interesting because I get it now, but at the beginning, it was somewhat shocking to me that he didn't offer strength training or nutrition separately. He offered nutrition separately. If you already had your strength training and you just wanted him for nutrition, that was a service. But you couldn't get strength training programming without getting nutrition. And I was just like, well, I don't really care. I've got nutrition down. I know what I'm eating. I know how to eat right. Yeah. I'm a mindful eater.
It's so backwards, right? Like so many people, like it's not just even a women thing. It's a people thing. We see this across the board, is that they think that the training is what's the problem.
That's the problem. I'm just not exercising enough.
Yeah. So I'll just go harder and I'll just do more cardio and I'll just add a day. Yeah. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
Like usually the training, if you've got a good consistent training program, that's good. You're there. Sure. It's that nutrition piece.
But yes. You do, I mean, the whole, thing that people use all the time about, feeding the fire really, really is accurate. I mean, if you really think about your body's metabolism the same way you do about, building a fire, like if you just dump a whole bunch of logs down, gigantic logs, and just toss a match in there, nothing's going to happen except the match is going to burn out. You can't do that. You've got to give it fuel. You've got to give it oxygen. You've got to build it slowly. You've got to get it going. And then once that fire is going, it's burning. But again, it's going to burn out if you don't give it fuel and give it the right fuel. Again, even a big roaring fire, if you dumped a pine tree on it, it's going to burn out. You've got to give it the right fuel for where it is, sort of in its cycle as well. So, so I started doing the strength training. I was kind of sort of mostly following the nutrition. And I will say executing a meal plan is something you have to learn as well.
Yes. It took me several months of just trial and error. And some days it was, okay, well, we're just going to start fresh, because he does programs every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And there were times where I just felt like this last particular week, it was just a wash. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're going to start fresh with this one. There's always ways to just do better the next day.
Sure. And for me, part of it, which I know I've talked with you and Keith about, is also, I mean, there's so much learning curve into all of it. Through doing whatever workout it may be, the strength training, between that and Google, I could figure out whatever exercise was on the strength training. Yeah. Dialing in weights and things, that was, something else to work on. But I knew what a bicep curl was. I knew what a bench press was. I knew what a squat was. So I could do those things. Learning just how to grocery shop. I mean, how much lean red meat do I need to buy in order to cook it to be 5 or 6, 7 meals worth of 115 grams.
Yeah, because as we've talked about before, you don't live just 5 or 10 minutes from a grocery store.
Yeah. So we do our grocery shopping once a week. That is it. We're at the grocery store for the week, and we're not near store. Yeah, because we do live on acreage out in the quote unquote country.
Yes. I wouldn't say quote unquote. It's country.
If I can see a neighbor's porch light vaguely through the woods, then it doesn't count to me. But,
y'all, if you could see her driveway, you would be laughing right now.
But yeah, so it is. It's an event to go grocery shopping.
So it definitely takes some,
and it's not something you can just pick up, because even my gym isn't necessarily near a grocery store. I'm not going to pass a grocery store or somewhere to pick something up on the way home, even stopping at the gym on the way home.
Yeah, because even your gym isn't close to home.
It's close to home, but it's not close to the store.
True.
Close to my home.
I'm just thinking,
everything
guess-
is kind of is a little more remote. So it just
Well, let me
requires
put things in
planning.
perspective. We live 3 to 5 minutes from everything that we need. So anything more than that would be
Yeah. We're
out of the way.
10 to 15 miles from, really we're 10 miles from the nearest Dollar General.
Yeah. So let's just say when our gas light goes off, we still have days.
Yeah, no, we don't. Yeah, the gas light comes on. You better get there.
Yeah, we still got days.
Or make sure you've got some gas tanks in the garage because
Right.
you're going to have an issue. But yeah, so it was just learning, how to shop for things, learning, and learning to enjoy the cooking process. For me, it was learning to say, okay, it doesn't have to be bland and tasteless. It can be, something that you enjoy. It can be something that Brandon doesn't enjoy, but you do, like bell peppers and mushrooms and zucchini and cauliflower and, all those things that I really like that he really doesn't. So great, I can cook them up. I mean, he's made the joke that Sunday morning is grocery store and Sunday afternoon is meal prep. And so he's made the joke to folks that every Sunday afternoon it looks like Thanksgiving dinner is being prepared in our kitchen because everything's out and we're cooking it up and it smells great and
you do such a beautiful job with it. What's your Instagram name, if you don't mind people knowing?
No, sure, yeah, it's Kat Brooks 310.
Okay, so Kat Brooks 310. You need to just go check out her meal prep because this is not, first of all, the Kat Brooks 310 that I knew from before. I can see just how much trial and error and how much effort you have put into your meal prep, and it's just a gorgeous meal prep. And you post a picture every Sunday, and I love seeing it. And I'm just so proud of you because I'm like, I know how hard that is. I know how hard it was for me. The meal prep was just, because it's not just a matter of just getting the plan.
Yeah.
You do have to plan your grocery trip. You've got to cook the food. You've got to execute it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would do all of those things except for the execution part. I'd be like, I don't really feel like eating that today.
Yeah.
And it would sit.
Yeah.
You actually have to eat the food. Like there's parts to this that you just think are so easy but sometimes I'm not in the mood to eat a particular thing, but I'm going to eat it because I've cooked it and it's there.
Yeah. And that's the part I think, like I said, it's the part about, getting creative and thinking about the things that you enjoy eating that maybe you don't cook because you're cooking for more than yourself. And so you don't normally cook these things, and you can have them and you can look forward to them because, they are something just for you.
Yeah. And you can use so many different seasonings and the sauces.
Yeah. There's just a lot of things to get. And there's meal prep companies out there. I mean, I've gotten my inspiration for a lot of my meals from, times when I didn't cook enough or didn't have time to cook because we were coming back from vacation or whatever. But, I've grabbed one of the ideal meals from Spartan Smoothies or something like that. And I've been like, oh, well, this is really good. Because I usually try to pick something that's as close to what's on my plan as possible. And so, I was like, oh, well, darn, if I just, put some buffalo seasoning on my chicken, it's going to taste delicious. Who would have known?
And I've never been a sauce person.
Yeah.
But when you do eat quite a few of the same things over and over and over again, I did have to get creative. And one of my favorite things was the GH Hughes.
Yes. Oh, I love them.
And it's the sweet chili.
Yes.
Which has only like 5 calories per serving, which is to me, it was a good size serving because some of them are 1 tablespoon and some are 2 tablespoons.
Yeah.
This was a 2 tablespooner.
Yeah.
And it was 5 calories. So I would actually mix the sweet chili with mustard. This was like deep in my show prep, and I could not take in any extra anythings.
I have become a connoisseur of mustards too.
Yeah. Well, I was never a mustard person. And the only thing that drove me crazy about the mustard is I'm not the, tidiest when I eat sometimes. And mustard, that stuff stains.
It'll leave a stain. It will. Yeah, for sure.
I was so mad. I probably ruined like 3 shirts just because I wouldn't slow down when I was trying to eat.
Yeah. So learning the nutrition to really be able to execute a meal plan was key. And I remember back when I think we were still living in Marietta, and I was doing some kickboxing at a gym out there, and they had a challenge, and it had a nutrition piece. And I remember specifically asking, I was like, am I allowed to have cheese and wine? Because if I have to cut out cheese and wine entirely, I'm not doing it. I mean, and I was dead serious. I was just like, look, I'm just not.
Yeah.
Which that's where I was in my life.
That's where you were.
Was not, I was not willing to give those two things up. Life was too short.
I know. I actually remember a time. Let's see, when would that have been? So like 2000, let's just say 2008. Let's say 2008. So I would have been like 29 years old, coming up on 30. And yeah, I was not going to give up my wine. I wasn't going to do it. And I remember though being so aggravated with how my body looked. So I'm like, I'm doing all this exercise. I'm eating relatively well. Again, we talked about, like,
You think you're doing great.
I think I'm doing great. I think I'm doing the right things. I am training and not even in the depth of where I ended up when it came to drinking. Like it was what I would say, quote unquote, normal people drink.
Yeah.
And I was still so aggravated with the way that I looked. And I remember a friend looked at me and she just flat out told me, she's like, are you willing to give up your wine? And I was like, no. She's like, well, then you're going to have to stop whining about your body not looking the way that it, but she was someone who drank too. So it's not like she was telling me, really like put up or shut up. She just knew that you couldn't have them both.
You need to get realistic about this.
Yes. And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
That really did. And then it was still another 10 years before I finally said, okay, we probably need to give this up.
Well, no one told me that. So, and in fact, this challenge that we did had 3 different levels, and I was doing the amateur level, which I remember I was allowed 4 ounces of wine every other day. So I had a Disney wine glass that had little lines on it, and so I measured out which line was whatever. So that was my little treat. But it did teach me that you can control your consumption. You can have
people would be shocked to know how much 4 ounces of wine actually
it's hardly anything. When that's all you're getting, you savor. You do learn to become a little bit of a connoisseur and to make sure that those sips taste delicious.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just not worth even the 4 ounces.
Exactly.
Because the calories are going to be the same whether it tastes good or not.
Exactly. Yep.
So but yeah, so then fast forward, with Doug and and I do think it's important to give yourself some grace, particularly when you're starting anything new. It is, to me, looking back and looking where I am now, I think I needed for there to be little baby steps. Even though I was getting the nutrition plan and the strength training plan, if I had really if I'd done my usual all or nothing, I'm going to charge into this and I'm going to follow it absolutely to the T from day one, I probably would have done it and then burned myself out and quit and found something else to do. Yeah. Because I would have made drastic changes too fast and it wouldn't have been sustainable. Yeah. Whereas if you just find a way to work the different steps in to your life,
just get a little bit better. Each day. So
it was like, okay, let's just get back on track of actually executing a strength training plan and hitting your days and figuring out, what that looks like. And for me, at first, it was just using some weights that I had at the house and using the free gym that I had at work. But then it was, okay, this is a lot of modifications. So, I don't want to have to modify things. And so, let's rejoin, let's find ourselves a gym so that we can do that. Okay, we've done that. Okay, now, I'm not sure we're challenging ourselves enough. Let's reconnect with our trainer. Let's dial that in. So there was a progressive dial in of truly executing the strength training plan. Yeah. That sort of went in conjunction with, okay, let's figure out this nutrition plan. But I was still, enjoying more than I probably wanted to admit to myself of not doing things on the plan. Yeah. Especially dinner time, evening times, having that extra cookie, having that glass of wine every evening, whatever it may be, which, some evenings might have been 2 or more. Yeah. It's been a hard day. I need this, So, and then also for me, because a lot of times it was, the last thing I'm having in the evening is having my glass of wine, is I was noticing I was getting more heartburn, almost like reflux. And my husband's actually one who was like, well, I mean, it is kind of acidic. Like, you think it's the wine? No, it couldn't possibly be that. It's got grapes and stuff. It's good for me. So
I'm only laughing because I've said these things to myself.
True, right? It's all that's got resveratrol or whatever it is that's in the grape skins that's, that's not in white wine, but I like it. What's that say? You get to keep the excuses you fight for.
Oh yeah.
You get to keep them.
I've told Keith before, when he starts doubting something, or he's trying to figure out if something's going to work or not. And he's like, well, maybe we should just Google it. I'm like, look, you can find any answer you want to find if you Google it enough.
This is true.
I'm like, that's why I don't really like to ask for too many people's opinions, because everybody's going to have
everyone's got one
an opinion.
It doesn't mean it's right.
And you can find anything to support what it is that you're wanting to support.
Sure.
If you search enough.
Well, it makes me think of something that Brennan says all the time about beekeeping, which is very true, is you ask 12 beekeepers a question, get 13 answers. And it's true, because everyone's got their own way of doing things. And there's a lot of things that aren't exact sciences. This is not 1 + 1 = 2. There's so many different factors that come in. Yeah. And what works for one person will not, I wouldn't even say may not, will not work for you exactly the way it worked for them, right. Because everything about you is different. You are unique. So, even if I followed, we have the same trainer.
I was just about to say,
gym. I could follow Doug's plan that he gives you exactly, and I'm not going to look like you, because I'm not you.
And that's what I actually like about the whole nutrition and training thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll worry. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he going to be mad because I'm not looking the way that he thinks that I should look? And, I'll stop it, because he's never, first of all, never been mad at anything that I've done ever. But I know that he's just giving me the plan, and then he's waiting to see how my body responds.
How your body responds, exactly.
He's not, if my body doesn't respond the way he thinks it's going to respond, that's not a reflection on me, and it's not a reflection on him. It's just data collected, and we just pivot and we move in a different direction.
And he's not going to give you something, and a good coach, he included with other good coaches, are not going to give you something that's not going to help you reach your goal.
Right.
Because, what you want, or what you may be upset with or not upset with, he's going to be able to, your coach is going to be able to help you dial it in. But it is going to take adjustments. It's going to take the learning process. And one of the things when I have a half marathon, I actually have a challenge, because again, just doing the one, this isn't enough. So me and a group of friends are going back to Disney for the Princess half marathon weekend, and of course, they have a challenge. So you do the 10K. They don't have a full marathon. They only have a full marathon once a year. So I'm not doing that one. But it's a half marathon. They do have a 10K half marathon challenge. So we signed up for that. And then, of course, there were some other friends that were doing the 5K. So we thought, well, why not? So we're doing a 5K at 10 and a half. So we've got that. And I loved that Doug was, I loved one that when I started telling him about this, that he thought that it was optional. And I'm like, no, if I'm talking about it, it's done. That registration fee has been paid. This ship has sailed. Yeah. But he was just like, okay, like if you're going to just know, I remember him saying, just know that running, with that much running, you're going to lose some muscle. And I'm getting to that point, because I'm starting to hit my truly long runs. But we had a 6 mile run, which is still kind of medium for me. But we had an 8 mile run, which is really, in my mind, you're hitting considerable distance. You're really hitting your longest runs. After body scan, it moved down like half a pound. But it was still like, oh,
I know. But it'll come back.
There it is. There's what he said.
This is just the season that you're in right now.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, it's just getting your mind adjusted. But it is, knowing that those are the things, and that these are the goals you have. So we're adjusting things. And with that, with more running, I get more carbs. Yay.
I was just about to ask. So did he alter your
So he
calories and carbs to
so
surround your workouts, or?
We've upped my protein to preserve muscle. And we've upped my carbs to keep the metabolism going and to keep me from getting hungry, getting hangry and eating, out of house and home when I get home from things.
That's awesome.
And don't make wise choices because I'm just hungry and I don't care.
And it's so nice to have someone that's doing that work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, for me, that was a big thing. So I'd come into Spartan Smoothies. I'd done the challenges. I was working out. I was, following things, but I wasn't truly following the nutrition plan as closely as I needed to. I mean, particularly I would say in the off work hours, the evening hours, dinners and certainly desserts and still, having that glass of wine. And so,
and this time, like, the
self-proclaimed,
we heard you say,
I'm not giving that up ever.
the queen of maintenance.
Queen of maintenance, yeah.
So we're seeing this, you're coming in, you're doing your body scans, and nothing is changing.
Nothing's moving.
Nothing's
moving. It's
like
just,
you were literally the queen of maintenance.
Yeah, it's just staying right there. So, so it was, about this time last year that I was like, okay, so I'm just going to enjoy the holiday season, finish this out. And then January, I started to focus about, the nutrition plan a little more. And then probably somewhere in maybe February, I was just like, okay, what if we don't have a glass of wine every night or most nights? What if we don't do that? I mean, it's
what clicked there? Like, what was it in that beginning of this year that you said, okay, I'm ready to see some change?
It was mainly, if you're going to work this hard, then I want to see the results.
Simple enough.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, if you're going to put in this much effort, it's kind of one of those things that's okay. It is time to put up or shut up, or what is it they say? It's time to, fish or cut bait.
I thought you were going to say shit or get off the pot.
Another one I love, another friend of mine always says, paint or get off the ladder. And,
y'all can choose any one of those.
Any one of those. But basically, was it Shawshank Redemption's thing, get busy living or get busy dying? I mean, like one or the other. Like, but it's time to make a choice.
Yes.
If you're gonna do all these things, then you need to do it.
Yeah. And here's the thing, when it comes to...
Or you need to come to the acceptance that this is it and that this is okay. You either need to get okay with it.
That's right.
Or you need to really do it.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you're dialed in, like, because if you were anything like me, like, I'll dial it all in, and there's just certain things I am still not going to get rid of. And back with me, when I decided that I was just going to be done with alcohol altogether, it was just more effort to moderate than it was. I mean, my case was definitely way further down the extreme. But I removed everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I pretty much isolated myself from everyone because everyone else was the problem. Yeah. It wasn't just nutritional for me. It was everyone else was the problem. Everything else was the problem. And that could not be it. So once you remove everything, so it's kind of like that nutritionally, once you dial everything else in, and you're still keeping that glass or two or possibly 3 glasses of wine in at night,
there's something, and it may not, and I and maybe it's not wine, maybe because I'm sure there's people who are like, well, I don't drink, so what's my issue? Because I always see those things about people talking about how, well, if you just swapped your creamer for skim milk, you'd lose X number of pounds in a year, and I'd be like, well, I don't drink coffee that much, and when I do drink coffee, I already use skim milk. So what am I supposed to do?
That's a good point.
How am I supposed to do it?
Yeah.
So there's something.
There's something.
It
could
may not be the skim. It could be the ice cream bar you're eating every night. It's really become self-aware.
Yes.
There is something that you are habitually doing, or
that seems harmless. And it could be. I was kind of shocked by this. It could be the cheat meal that you have. You would be shocked, like, to know how much is in just a simple cheeseburger and fries.
So we had a potluck a week ago at work, and everyone brought in delicious foods that again, most of them seem harmless. We had homemade tamales. Oh my God, those are so good. we had oxtail. We had little pinwheel roll-up sandwiches. We had I don't know. We had all kinds of delicious things. Those are obviously still my favorites. We had the oxtail and the tamales were the stars of the show. Like I could have eaten my weight in those. But literally, I had one savory tamale. I had one sweet tamale. I had like 2 or 3 pieces of oxtail. I had like 2 little roll-ups, and they weren't like the Costco roll-ups. They're like the little homemade, little small pinwheel roll-ups. Very, very small, things that I was like, good, I feel like I've gotten something. I've got a very small little spoonful of this, a spoonful of that, and it was my cheat meal day. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be my cheat meal. This is going to be good. Ooh, I plugged that joker into MyFitnessPal. That was like a 900 calorie meal. I was like, oh,
awareness.
Where did all those calories come from? It was just one little tamale. So to your point, I mean, I think it is, and I know there's different dichotomies on whether or not you should track things. And I think I can see how being a person who tends to go all or nothing and does tend to overdo things, I can see how you can become obsessive about tracking your food and that becoming, more of a weakness than a strength. But I think it is good to do some tracking, especially if you can't figure it out, if you're not sure what your glass of wine is, if you're not sure what your creamer in the coffee is.
Measure it.
You measure your things out.
You would be surprised.
See what it is because it'll show itself.
It will.
And you'll be like, huh.
Measure your creamer out.
That's right.
That'll be an eye opener.
That'll be an eye opener.
Measure your peanut butter. That's an eye opener.
Peanut butter, yeah.
Yeah. So
a serving of peanut butter is like just weigh the peanut butter in front of your nose.
I know.
There you go.
I've been able to have an English muffin with 8 grams of peanut butter, which is a half a tablespoon.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Half a tablespoon.
You're pretty much dipping the knife in, and it's surprised. Once you spread it out, it actually does well. But he did just increase my peanut butter to 16 grams, which is a full tablespoon. But 8 grams of peanut butter, you're like, I mean, if I tried to eyeball that.
Yeah. Oh, a lot. Some things, particularly vegetables, I've found, tend to be a lot less than what you think they are.
Which is why
and surprise, surprise.
I know it sounds crazy to some people, like why would you measure your vegetables? Because I don't want to eat any more than I need to. Okay.
I've also learned which ones are more dense. Cauliflower weighs more than broccoli after you cook it. So, if you mix the two together, then you really don't have to eat that much of them.
That's good to know.
Yes. But, there's different things like that, that it was like, I got to put more broccoli in the container. Is this thing broken? Because I just put chicken in here and we filled up the chicken weight really fast. So, I think it is a useful tool.
Yeah.
And it is a tool, having a coach is a tool, having a plan is a tool. And it's, but it goes back to any tool. You've got to use the tool, and you probably need to get yourself ready for the fact that you're going to have to learn to use the tool.
Yes.
Some tools may be, intuitive, and some tools may not be. But if someone handed you a crescent wrench and a nail and a piece of wood, you're going to have a hard time nailing it. You could nail it in with the crescent wrench, but it's going to be a lot harder than if you used a hammer.
Yeah.
And depending on what you're hammering into and what kind of nail you have, there's a gazillion kinds of hammers. You might need a specialty hammer in order to nail it in. So it's ready yourself for the fact that it's going to be a learning curve. Get ready to give yourself some grace.
I love that.
Get ready to find some grit because you're going to need both.
Yeah.
To really truly dial it in and get your goals and to be ready for, maybe finding out that something that you really do want to hang on to, you don't need to hang on to. But, I can say you'll be surprised at how much some of those things are just habit. You don't really need them.
That's true.
You know, I mean, one of the tricks I've used is, you know, I have a lot of really pretty wine glasses that I like, that I would get out each night. I still get them out each night. There's no rule that says you have to put wine in a wine glass.
Exactly.
You know, the wine glass police are not at my door. They're there to confiscate my goods because I'm not putting wine in them.
That is true.
You know, so, you know, and I find something else. I like kombucha. So I have a little glass of kombucha in the evening in my wine glass. And, you know, and
we've talked about the sparkling waters, the different flavored.
Yes, and so that's usually what goes in there next is some sparkling water, you know, and then just some water with some lemon or some lime or whatever it needs, a piece of fruit, something to make it feel fancy. You know, you can still make it celebratory.
Yeah.
You know, and if you want to cut something out, then by all means, you know, cut. But if you want to reduce, you know, things like for me, you know, wine or alcohol generally in general now is sort of, you know, a special occasion thing. It's going to be a celebratory thing. It's going to be something that is worth the effort to me.
Yeah.
You know, not having it regular has also made me very aware of how it influences my body chemistry. So for me, it's like, okay, well, is whatever I want to have this for worth the change that's coming, the altering of the body chemistry? Because
you can feel it.
Yeah,
you can feel it now.
Yeah.
When it's removed for long enough, and then you do consume it, it's definitely a good opportunity for some data collecting.
And that is the same way with other foods.
Oh, absolutely.
Your stomach does not, your digestive system is not prepared for those foods that you maybe used to eat, particularly fats.
Yes.
Like once you really reduce fats, your digestive system does not like having a bunch of them dumped on it.
And we've talked before when it's time for a cheat meal or a refeed or whatever, just because we go to bed so early, our dinner time and our bedtime is abnormally close together. So sometimes we will have the cheeseburger and the fries shortly before bed. And Keith especially, sometimes he'll just be sitting on the couch. He's like, I just got to hang out here for a little while because my heart is racing. So that's how his body reacts. And mine does too, to an extent, but he's a little more in tune with it. I'm just that tired that I'm like, I'll deal.
Just deal with it, buddy.
I'll deal with it. But yeah, when you're not used to consuming certain things, whether it's alcohol or sugar or the fats or just different foods in general. I mean, if you cut out gluten for long enough and you add that in, then your body is going to have a little reaction to it. Yeah. And, you know, you just have to get to know what the cues are and what the trigger foods are. And like you said, ask yourself, is it going to be worth the feeling that I'm going to feel afterwards?
I'm going to feel after. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I love that. So ever since that was cut out, how have you been feeling? I believe that's when rubber kind of hit the road.
Oh, it did. Yeah. I mean, that's when, you know, change, you know, you made changes and change occurred.
Because we started seeing it and we were like, what's happening to Kat? What is she doing? Like our wheels started turning. We're like, she was queen of maintenance for all of this time. And all of a sudden, like, I'm seeing muscle on you that I've never seen before. I'm also seeing a new confidence in you that I've never seen before, which is amazing.
Which is great. I mean, and that's, you know, I posted up a picture on my Instagram yesterday from a race picture, a Disney race picture from 8 years ago, from 2015.
Yeah.
That was the very beginning of what I call my year of running. And I think I did 5 Disney races that year, which is a lot. That's a lot of trips. That one was in Disneyland. So yeah, so I did think I did 2 Disneylands and 3 Disney Worlds that year. So me and the mouse were good friends. And yeah, so, but I kept thinking that, you know, as my weight was we hit my goal weight and then kind of hit, you know, farther, and it was like, okay, well, gosh, the last time I weighed this weight and, you know, ladies especially, we got to get out of our heads when it comes to that number on the stupid scale.
We do.
I still battle it. So I am literally preaching to myself on this one, but it's hard.
It is.
But yeah, so I kept thinking like, oh, well, you know, you haven't weighed this much since you were doing like all that running. And then I like found that picture that I'd posted up with a side by side, after working out with Jennifer one day. And, because I remembered that picture. I loved that picture after the race with my medal, and I thought I looked really good in that picture.
And you did?
I loved my costume for that. It was one of my favorite running costumes. I was the ringmaster. We did a villains for the 10K. It was another 10K half marathon challenge. We did villains for 10K, and we did a Dumbo theme. I was Timothy the Mouse for the half marathon. So me with my 5'9" self was a mouse. So, but yeah, so I loved that one, and I found that picture, and I immediately noticed that my arms did not have the muscle. And I was like, wow, it's like, so you weigh what you weigh now, and knowing, that muscle is denser, than fat. I was like, so like, you're really fitter, you're healthier.
Yeah.
You're in a much better wellness place than you were then.
Oh, what a cool feeling.
And it was just like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
Here you are, 50 is on the horizon, and you're really getting in the best shape.
And in that post, you said something along the lines of, you wanted to look strong.
I want to look strong. And that's my big thing is I really, I wouldn't go so far as say skinny is a bad word. I know that some people are like, skinny is a bad word, but for me, it's like, I don't want to be skinny. I want to be strong. I want to look fit. I want to look healthy, and that's, that for me means having some muscle tone. And as we age, muscle is very important for your bone density and for healthy bones as you get older. And, I want to be that other little, meme that you see going around that's like, it's better to be the youngest person or the oldest person in the gym than the youngest person in the nursing home.
Love that.
And I'm just like, yes, that is the goal there. I'll be the old lady at the gym. I don't care.
That's going to be me.
I don't want to be the whippersnapper in the nursing home.
That's right.
So it's been great. And it's, and I think it's also important to build yourself, a community. Your circle is important. What you digest, who you're listening to, who you're seeing is important. So if you're, whatever your goals are, make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that have like-minded goals, because they're gonna push you forward. And that's why I really refer to it sort of my wellness community. Yeah. A lot of times I'll say, especially in like, if I'm doing, getting in my feels and doing some sort of transformation post of some sort, that it's, it does take a village. So, I do have, a coach, and I have a trainer, and I have, a mindset coach, and I have all these people, and then I just have my circle of fitness friends, right.
All of that matters so much.
It all just matters. And, and no one roots for you more than someone else who's, who truly is in the arena with you.
Yeah.
They also recognize that they are in competition with themselves. They're not in competition with you.
Exactly.
And they are rooting for you in your competition with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's helpful, it is inspiring, but it is the support that you need. And it's just, it's everything to have, a circle of your friends, of your family. Having Farmer B's support is just instrumental, because there are things, obviously, if I'm going to work, to the office, we're back in the office and have been for a while. And if I'm coming, driving from Atlanta and stopping at the gym to get that workout in, then I'm not getting home exactly at the same time. Right. And that means dinner is not going to be at the same time. And, and maybe dinner isn't, all the things all the time.
Right.
It may just be that's what we're having. Luckily, he just naturally, and I wish I had this more, he just naturally enjoys healthier foods.
Oh, that is so good.
Naturally does not, he really doesn't like fast food. He doesn't really like fatty foods. He doesn't really like greasy foods. So, he is a meat and potatoes kind of guy. Give him some chicken and rice and he's happy. Mm-hmm. So that works.
So that helps.
That helps quite a bit.
That helps.
Just leave the cauliflower off.
Well, it sounds like that you are on just such a good path.
Yeah.
And I am so excited to see what this next year is going to bring, because the possibilities are they're just open and endless. When you flip that switch that flip that switch.
Flip that switch.
There's just so many possibilities when you turn the page. Yes. And you do. It just sounds like that you've got everything just dialed in. And I know that there's ways that you can dial in even more because that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And I know that you're just going to continue to do that. And you do just have such a positive and empowering light. And you just spread that all over. Like every time I make a post, for goodness sakes, you were like one of the first people there. And I do consider you to be in my close circle of support. And I can't thank you enough for that because it's definitely on my road. It has definitely been bumpy and has not been the easiest. So having your support and everyone else's has just meant the world. So before we close out, if you had to sum up, if you just had to give one piece of advice to someone who just wants to make some better choices in their health and wellness journey, what would that be?
It is so cliche, but it really is.
Well, they're cliches for a reason.
That's right. It really is. Start where you are.
Yeah.
Just start. I mean, you don't have to wait for January 1. And guess what? If January 1 comes by and you haven't started, January 2 works just as good.
Yep.
Yep. December 14th works just as good. I mean, whatever date, just start where you are, but start. Don't let your hang-ups of the way you think it's supposed to happen or the way it has to happen. It's going to happen however it happens.
That's right.
The only way through it is through it.
That is right. I know.
Just start where you are. Start with what you have, doing what you can, and let it progress from there.
I love that. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
It was fun. I was like, okay, once we settled in, we're good. We're good.
All right.
All right, Kat.
We should have some car background noise. It would have been faster. All right.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.